chapter 4 of module 4, we're going to talk about attention. And the obvious opposite of that is distraction. Some of you may know where I'm going with this, as it's pretty topical at the moment. And anybody who has been trying to do better in this space is probably well aware of some of the science behind it. But I really did feel it was necessary to include it here because there's pretty clear evidence coming out now that one of the biggest detractors from our well-being and our sense of busyness right now and our emotion contagion is our attachment to our devices. So, I do want to spend a little bit of time just addressing some of the practical things that we can do to try to get on top of that. Please don't think that I am suggesting that this is easy. Okay, the phone addiction is referred to an addiction because it really genuinely hormonally has us hooked to the dopamine impact. We are really trapped in a similar way that people with much more significant substance addictions are. And it is sometimes even harder to break free because we can't avoid these things in our life. It's very difficult to go cold turkey on technology in the professions that we're in, or just simply in the life that we're in. Even if you choose to be someone who doesn't download apps or engage in all of these things, sometimes it's actually just the way that we have to pay our bills. We have to engage with this company. We need to do this. We need to get our rates sorted. We actually can't avoid this in real life a lot of the time. So I want to talk about how we're going to manage some of that. So here's some of the cover and evidence, which is a little bit scary. Isn't even the scariest of the figures. It's just some of the most objectively analyzed studies that I've seen. So we're really going deep on those. So firstly, we have pretty clear evidence that the average attention span when you look at your phone particularly is 47 seconds. And over half of those looks, over half of the times that we pick up our phone, we didn't even do it for a reason. So of the 96 to 150 times on average that we are picking up our phones in a day, we didn't even know why. It was just habit. We habitually are lifting our phones to check whether we've got a message, check whether we've got a thing going, check whether somebody's liked our Facebook post. We're not even doing it for a reason. And after that 96 to 150 times a day where we are distracted or looking at our screens for 47 seconds on average, it takes on average 25 minutes to recover full attention from a distraction. So that means that every time you're trying to do a really big piece of work or get something really hard done, or you're really mentally engaged in something and it gets hard and you want a distraction, so you lift up your phone to check if you've got a WhatsApp message from your mum, you spend 47 seconds doing that. And then it's 25 minutes of not being back fully invested in the thing that you were doing. And whether that was case notes or dose calculations or policy and procedure or a really difficult email, we are failing to spend our time well anymore because we can't stay focused on one task. We are unable to actually give our brains full attention, and it gets uncomfortable, so we go looking for our phones. We pick them up as soon as it feels friction. I am 100% guilty of forcing myself to do deep work for 90 minutes at a time, and I feel like a little twitch in my hand every time I reach for my phone. And of course I'm trying to live some of what I preach, so I've put it away, but my hand twitches almost like a ghost limb. And when I pay attention to that, I can tell it's because whatever I'm doing has gotten hard or is no longer interesting me. And I'm just looking for an out. And our brains are now doing that. I mean, all the research and all of the doomsday media you hear on the news is all about what that's doing to our children, and that's relevant, but it's doing it to us as well. And we're not talking about that enough. So those of you who, are like, oh, well, I go out to dinner and I place my phone downwards, or I'm at a meeting and I, just turn it off. They've pretty much proven that we have a reduced working memory and a reduced intellectual cognition, even when we've turned our phone off or turned it face down. Presence of a phone is nearly as disruptive as using your phone. And of course, what all of this does, all of this addiction to picking it up and the hit we get when we do have messages, or just the easy distraction from the hard or boring thing that we're doing, is it creates dopamine releases that make it very, very hard for anything else to satisfy those dopamine hits. We're getting so addicted to the hit that we're getting that we actually are spending the rest of the time in a dopamine deficient state, which is adding to a society with generalized anxiety, with a lot of restlessness, and being poorer at regulating our emotions. This isn't opinion. This is statistically, there's a lot of evidence for this stuff. So I don't want to be that person who's like, get off your phone. Like I say, I run a business. I have to have my phone with me a lot of the time. I am guilty of a lot of this. I check my phone when I'm sitting at traffic lights. I check my phone when I'm sitting on the toilet. I get anxious when I'm in the shower for too long in need to check my phone and I can't. This is the world that we live in now. So what are we going to do about it? Okay, some pretty practical tips that have some pretty good evidence behind them. Don't assume that turning your phone face down is going to help you. Okay, we have to remove it from our presence. So put it in another room. I leave mine plugged in the kitchen whilst I'm in the office. I also leave mine in the car when I go on a dog walk. I want to be fully present when I am outside in nature. If I am using it to check for messages or scroll Facebook or even listen to a podcast, which feels productive, but I'm actually just not mindfully enjoying the only time that I get outdoors in a day. So leave it behind, not in your pocket. Don't trust yourself. And it's distracting even if you've left it in your pocket. There's a pretty good device now called the Brick. I think they've only got it for Apple, but I'm assuming they will bring it out generic soon, where you can basically tap your phone to the device and it turns off all of basically it makes your phone a dumb phone. You can still make phone calls and use GPS, but that's about it. And so if you're going out and you want to fully engage in what you're doing, then your phone doesn't work for anything except making phone calls and emergency, the tools that you want to be able to use. So consider drastic measures. All right, this is not going to be as easy as just reduce your reliance on it. You're going to have to be drastic if you want this to happen. There's no addict ever that just happened to reduce their consumption of something they were addicted to. All right. Secondly, you want to make your phone less addictive, less enjoyable. So that means dimming the screen, turn off the colors, put it on grayscale mode or bedtime mode so that it's less flashy light stimulating, turn the notifications and the sounds off. If you can, go back to having one tool devices. So, go back to having an MP3 player to play your music. Go back to having a Kindle to read your books off. Go back to having a dumb phone for making phone calls and sending text, and keep your social media just on your laptop where you have to get up from your chair and choose to walk over there and sit down in an uncomfortable chair to do it. When you are trying to get something done, if you are sitting at the desk and you can't just leave your phone in the other room, or you can't not look at a screen because you're on a screen to do what you're doing, challenge yourself to only have one tab open. Okay, if you're trying to get a meaty piece of work done and you've got your email notifications popping up here and there, and you've also got the weather app over here, and you've got the news app over here, and you're Googling this and you're asking ChatGPT this, you've got your LinkedIn profile open at the same time as your clinical notes, all of those things are taking up space in your head. So what you want to do, you've got a big chunk of clinical notes you want to do, you want to close all of the other tabs, make sure your Outlook notifications are turned off. Set yourself a timer. Now, to start with, that timer might only be 10 minutes, and you will find, oh my God, 10 minutes of one thing is hard. You can I'm worked up to about 90 minutes now. I can make myself do this for, but it is not easy to get there. It took me a long time to be able to do 90 minutes of deep work at a time. But even during that 10 minutes, if a thought comes up, you're like, oh, but I need to Google something, or I need to look up that thing. Don't do it. Write it down on a piece of paper, good old-fashioned style, and look it up when you're finished. Most of the time you'll discover you didn't even need to look up the thing, actually. You were just doing it because your brain wanted a distraction. Okay? So, yep, when you're doing your finances and you need to go between things, do that, get all of this stuff together, and then sit with one tab open and do the work. Write down any questions you have to look up at the end of your 10-minute timer. Try not to use a digital timer either. Don't look at the clock, because even the art of looking down in the corner where you can see other notifications, use an old-fashioned analog watch or a kitchen timer. All right. So we're trying to get our brain attention muscles back up to scratch, right? So start small, block your calendar out for this stuff. Okay. So don't let people, can I just ask you a thing? All right, I am unavailable during this time. I'm doing some deep work. Yeah. And last but not least is a really good method that I really like that talks about every time you think you want to look at your screen, ask yourself 3 questions. What for? Why now? And what else? What am I looking at it for? Or is this a habitual tick? Am I actually picking it up to check the weather? Or did I actually already check the weather this morning and I'm just looking at it out of habit because I don't know what else to do right now because my brain is uncomfortable with the boredom or the restlessness of what I'm doing? Have you got an actual reason for picking up that phone? Secondly, why do you need to do it now? Could this wait? Could this be done at a more appropriate time when your kids aren't here or when you aren't out enjoying the sunshine for your only time today? Or, when you're not out with friends or in the car? Why do you have to know that thing right now? In fact, you will find a lot of it by the time you get home, you didn't even need to know that much because you've forgotten what it was you wanted to look up. We're just so accustomed to being able to look up stuff right now that we think that that will be useful information. And the third question is, what else could you be doing if you didn't pick up your phone right now? What else would you be doing better? Would you be getting that work done better? Would you be enjoying the outdoors? Would you be being more mindful with your kids? Would you be setting a better example? Would you just be actually relaxing your brain, reading a book, watching a TV show you actually like rather than doomsday scrolling? So, what for, why now, and what else is what I really want you to think about, because that is the only way to give our brains a chance of getting back to being able to do work that is fulfilling and achieve something rather than the busy work of just ticking off tiny little things on our to-do list that feels like it's keeping us busy so we're comfortable in it, but it's not those two big things that really are important to us.